She was just 19 years old. Beautiful, bright, and full of promise, Audrey Griffin had her entire future ahead of her. She was preparing to join the Navy, ready to embrace discipline, service, and new adventures. But on a Saturday night in March 2024, her life ended in a way that no one could have imagined. Audrey wasn't targeted. She wasn't caught in some twisted love triangle or feud. She was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, crossing paths with a violent man she had never even met. A man with a terrifying past. A man who should never have been free. This is the chilling story of Audrey Griffin. Her final night, the discovery that shattered her family, and the disturbing history of the man who took her life. March 22nd, 2024 started as a night of joy. Audrey had recently been accepted into the Navy, and her friends planned a farewell celebration at the Gosford Hotel on New South Wales' Central Coast. The night was filled with laughter, dancing, and stories. Audrey, known for her loyalty and sharp sense of humor, radiated excitement. She was preparing for a new chapter, one that promised structure, discipline, and opportunity. Her friends later described her as glowing that evening, someone with the world at her feet, unaware that it would be her last night alive. After midnight, Audrey decided to leave the bar. She intended to call an Uber, but for reasons still unknown, perhaps a phone battery issue, connectivity problems, or simply feeling safe on familiar streets, she chose to walk toward a friend's house nearby. It was such a small, ordinary decision, the kind anyone might make at the end of a long night. But that decision placed her on a collision course with a predator. That same night, another figure was moving through the streets. Adrien Torren, a man with a violent past and a record that should have kept him locked away. Adrien wasn't out looking for Audrey. His destination was his estranged wife, Michelle, who had already taken out a protection order against him. He had been threatening her relentlessly, leaving chilling voicemails filled with rage and promises of violence. Those who knew Adrien said his temper was like a ticking time bomb, and every encounter with him carried the potential for disaster. But before he reached her house, he encountered Audrey walking alone. Two strangers crossing paths for only a few moments. Yet those few moments sealed Audrey's fate, forever altering the lives of her family, her friends, and her community. By Sunday morning, Audrey's mother, Kathleen, grew uneasy. She checked her daughter's phone location, something she often did for peace of mind. What she saw chilled her. Audrey's last GPS coordinates placed her near Arena Creek, a dark and wooded area not far from the city center. Her friends hadn't seen her. She hadn't arrived at her destination. Panic set in, and every passing minute made the situation feel more urgent and frightening. Police were contacted, and friends began searching. It was one friend's husband who first spotted something troubling: Audrey's bag, abandoned near the creek. Soon after, police discovered Audrey's body, face down in the water. The scene was grim, and the silence of that place only deepened the sense of horror. At first, officers suggested it might have been a misadventure, perhaps an accidental drowning, but that explanation never made sense to those who knew Audrey. She was a strong swimmer, athletic, cautious, and sober that night. Her parents quickly rejected the idea that she had simply slipped. When they saw her body, their worst fears were confirmed. Audrey bore visible injuries, scratches, bruises, mud under her fingernails. She had fought for her life, leaving behind silent evidence of her courage in her final moments. From the very beginning, Audrey's parents believed the police weren't doing enough. There were no urgent public appeals, no homicide squad immediately assigned, and no sense of urgency in the official response that matched the gravity of their loss. Instead, her grieving family launched their own search for answers. Just 3 days after Audrey's death, it wasn't detectives, but her mother's friend who found her phone, still in the mud near where her body had been discovered. Why hadn't police found it? Why hadn't the area been properly searched? Even after the discovery of her bag and body nearby, Kathleen went door to door, alerting neighbors and nearby businesses, determined not to let her daughter's case be ignored. She even visited a petrol station close to the crime scene. Staff there hadn't even heard of Audrey's case, a sign of how little information had been shared publicly. It was only after relentless pressure from her parents, who refused to stay silent, that authorities finally began treating her death as suspicious. Their persistence became the only reason the investigation moved forward, highlighting a devastating gap in the system. The man who killed Audrey wasn't a mystery to the system. Adrien Torren had an extensive record of violence, intimidation, and abuse stretching back years. He had been convicted of assault and fraud. He had stalked women, threatened them with knives, and repeatedly violated protection orders. In one horrifying incident in 2019, he stomped on a woman's chest and broke her arm. Despite this pattern of behavior, Adrien was repeatedly released. Just weeks before Audrey's murder, he had been convicted yet again, but instead of prison, he received a community corrections order. Once more, he walked free. On the night Audrey died, Adrien left 12 threatening voicemails for his estranged wife, including chilling promises to rip her head off. Michelle, terrified but accustomed to his threats, didn't call police. She no longer believed they would protect her. Adrien should have been behind bars. Instead, he was roaming the streets. Police later pieced together what likely happened. Adrien had been heading toward Michelle's home when he spotted Audrey. He didn't know her. She didn't know him, but he followed her, and in the darkness, he attacked. There were no direct witnesses, but the evidence on Audrey's body told the story. Bruises and scratches suggested a desperate struggle. DNA beneath her fingernails proved she fought back with everything she had. She tried to survive, but she never stood a chance against a man like Adrien. It took weeks before investigators finally connected the dots. Audrey's mother pushed them relentlessly, begging them to review every second of CCTV footage from the area. Eventually, that footage revealed the truth. A man was seen following Audrey on the night she died. The images, grainy but recognizable, were released to the public. Michelle saw them and instantly identified her estranged husband. Police moved quickly. They tapped Adrien's phone and recorded him confessing to a friend. On April 21st, nearly a month after Audrey's death, Adrien was arrested. But justice never came. Just 3 days after his arrest, Adrien took his own life in custody. He left behind no note, no explanation, no apology. For Audrey's parents, it was another devastating blow. They would never confront the man who stole their daughter. They would never hear why he did it. There would be no trial, no testimony, and no closure. Michelle, too, was left with torment. The man she once loved, the man she feared, had turned into a monster, and now he was gone, leaving behind a trail of destruction and unanswered questions. The deeper tragedy of Audrey's case lies not only in her death, but in how preventable it was. Adrien had been given countless chances by the justice system. Despite a record of escalating violence, he violated protection orders again and again. He threatened women's lives openly, yet he was repeatedly released. Judges allowed him freedom. Police failed to act on warnings, and when Audrey was murdered, those same authorities were slow to even classify her death as suspicious. Audrey's parents believe their daughter's death is proof of a system that protects the wrong people, a system that gives violent offenders second, third, and even 10th chances, while innocent lives pay the price. In the aftermath, the community reacted with anger and grief. Vigils were held in Audrey's honor. Her parents spoke out, demanding reform and accountability. They vowed that no other family should endure what they had been forced to live through. Audrey Griffin didn't know Adrien Torren. She didn't provoke him. She wasn't part of his violent history. She was simply walking home, happy, hopeful, and dreaming of her future. Her story is more than just a tragedy. It's a warning about systemic failures, ignored red flags, and the dangers of complacency in the face of repeat offenders. The murder of Audrey Griffin shocked Australia, not only because of its senselessness, but because it highlighted the cost of a broken system. A 19-year-old woman with her whole future ahead of her was killed by a man who should never have been free. Her parents continue to speak out, ensuring her memory is not lost. They remind us that Audrey was not just a victim. She was a daughter, a friend, and a young woman who deserved so much more. If you believe stories like Audrey's deserve to be told, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Share your thoughts. How should the justice system handle repeat violent offenders? Every voice matters, and raising awareness is one step toward making sure tragedies like Audrey's never happen again.